What is up, everybody? This is, of course, your favorite Shogun here, Sugi, and today I'm delighted to review the first season of Chainsaw Man. But before we go into my individual take, I'm going to be breaking down a bit of the premise and what exactly is this anime about. So our main protagonist is a human teenager known as Denji, who is working for the yakuza to pay off his father's massive debts to them, and he has only one friend who happens to be a pet devil named Pochita that has a chainsaw coming out from his nose. Yeah, you heard that right. And Denji is living very shitty life, living on a goddamn shed. He doesn't really have a real home, or he is not even eating good foods or anything. Is only dreaming of living the very bare minimum poverty line lifestyle. Essentially has like a very, very, very unambitious goals basically throughout the series, and that's kind of one of the memes of the whole show. And what eventually happens is that the yakuza decide to betray Denji. They kill him and then throw off his dead body into a goddamn dumpster. And when he is in verge of losing consciousness of all of his body parts, his only friend, Pochita, decides to save Denji by fusing with him, repairing his organs, restoring his missing eye, and recovering the limbs, basically. And then he's essentially resurrected, and now he is half human and half devil. And he has the ability to transform into a chainsaw man. And now he reenacts his revenge against the yakuza, and then shortly after, he's met by these agents from this agency that are contracting devils and humans alike to kill other devils. And that's kind of like the very gist of this whole premise of the story, and obviously evolved from there, and it's introducing a lot more characters and everything, but that's very the gist of it, that Denji lived a very harsh life, and now he's kind of getting the taste of like living a more of a better life, which is still shitty, by the way. Now, there's obviously a lot of people who have made similarities and comparisons into Jujutsu Kaisen, and there are a lot of similarities between the two. Both are very gore, both have something to do with devils and curses, and obviously the characters also look a lot more realistic in proportions. But that's where a lot of the similarities really end, because I think Chainsaw has a lot more darker humor, and it has a lot more social commentary, especially about simp culture, but not necessarily from a Western standpoint, but rather from Japanese standpoint, where the simping culture is like 20 years ahead. Like what we're seeing in the West in terms of simp culture, what is in Japan right now might be the future of it. Who knows? Like, it's a very interesting subject altogether. Now, the story really only kicks around on the 8th episode. Everything before that is kind of like introducing all of these side characters and having certain type of character development on Denji. Not much, but little. You can see him getting the gist of things and like understanding how the world works. Not fully, but he's trying to get a bit of a hang of it, and he gets to also have these, well, in his eyes, remarkable achievements and milestones, like eating a steak or takoyaki and shit like that. For him, that's like the most amazing thing. And then he's obviously have this big desire to have sex, and then he's kind of like, well, there are certain female characters are saying, well, if you perform really good, you might be getting laid, and then he's kind of really excited about that. Now, what I think is the biggest appeal of Chainsaw Man ultimately is the characters. I think Fujimoto, who is the mangaka, is really pushing the envelope here when it comes to the archetypes, because traditionally in a lot of anime, characters are really defined by their meme lines that they spam throughout the series and one-dimensional personalities. There might be a character who's kind of passive, and then there's always a moment in the episode where he gets triggered or something. So you have these personalities who are very monotone. They have two sides to them, and that's what they only express, or the meme lines and everything. And this is something that I hope, and I have been hoping, that the anime characters kind of get more broadened up. They feel a lot more like real life characters and everything, and that's really important about bringing that multi-dimensional feel. And I feel like in Chainsaw Man, a lot of the characters are a lot more multi-dimensional and feeling a lot more closer to people in real life in terms of like how goal orientated people are. Like, the simping stuff goes kind of crazy, obviously, in the series, but there are so many men in the world who are doing crazy shit to white knight or fucking simp for women. Like, it's just so... like, this is how badly these guys need to get laid. So in a lot of ways, it's actually real too, in that sense. So I do appreciate the characters, and that's the main appeal to me in this series, because I do feel that they're a bit more fleshed out, a lot more multidimensional than your average characters. And, and the thing is, we haven't really seen any real development in terms of anime archetypes in a long time. Perhaps I'm thinking like a character like Yuno from Future Diary, which is probably a good modern example where the yandere archetype became a lot more mainstream. I mean, there has been yandere characters in the past before Yuno, but Yuno probably solidified the yandere character to its extreme form, and like very fleshed out yandere character that was like that kind of made it popular again, and span out into a lot of anime in the modern day. Now, the whole simping aspect of this anime, I'm not like super fond of these types of elements. Like, these are kind of like beta culture, and I'm not really a promoter of that. But because this was done in such a refreshing way compared to previous anime, I look past that. I don't mind it too much. If you do things differently, I'm always going to give you points for that. Always. But the issue here is that the actual fan base has succumbed into simping themselves for the female characters on the series, and which is kind of like the opposite of the series' message, in the sense that Denji is not blackmailed, but he is bribed into doing shit, lot of effort, in exchange for very small amount of like sexual trade-offs. And the message I believe the series is trying to convey, you never know with these Japanese people obviously, is that maybe you have a bit more self-worth, that you will not be simping and like selling yourself as a character and selling your values in exchange to get laid one fucking time, or getting approved by some fucking female e-celeb or some shit, like this is kind of getting ridiculous on that. People are not really, they're kind of missing the points here. And obviously the female characters are kind of sexual here, they're kind of well drawn, and they have nice bodies, but that's kind of like besides the point. Like the show is trying to show you something about this relationship and how toxic it really is. Now, there's also been massive amounts of crying about the 3D stuff in the show, but the fundamental reality is that it's really hard to animate moving objects in 2D and make it look good. This is the reason why all the fucking cars are always done in 3D in modern anime. You pick out any anime, the cars are always fucking 3D, because the wheels are easy to do, spinning animation in fucking Unreal Engine or whatever they use in Japan. I mean, they have many different programs that they use. Not so much Unreal, but like that's the thing here, is that when we have like a head, like arms are easy to do with the chainsaw coming out, and in 2D you can make that work. But the head, the helmet, is a 3D object, and then you have like these million fucking teeth coming out from the helmet itself, and it's like that's really hard fucking to do in 2D, and that just shows that how fucking uneducated class of people weebs really are in this world. Like, holy shit, like they don't seem to understand anything about animation altogether. Like it's really hard to do that type of animation in 2D. It would take so much more time, and these guys are crunched anyways. Like it's just like really hard to do shit like that in 2D. So you have to understand that the only sensible solution here, in terms of the budget and the time constraint, was to do all the chainsaw animations in 3D. And I have to say, in my opinion, it was like above the Japanese industry standards in terms of the 3D animation. I've seen a lot worse 2D animation in Japanese anime. This was definitely above the average. And I think MAPPA did great shots, throughout the anime, which were in 2D cinematic things, and just small moments, whatever it's the intros and the openings. There were a lot of great shots in there, a lot of good detail. Like, I just really like that. And the 3D portions are so small in the end of the day, like so little about the things are actually done in 3D than in 2D. So I think there's unnecessarily large amount of whining about this whole fucking thing. Now, in terms of I like that there was always a different ED end of every episode. I'm pretty sure that every episode had a different ED. and that was like showing a lot of effort into everything, and I thought it was a cool idea. It was refreshing. The rest of the OST though didn't really make any mark for me. Something I didn't really pick up anything that I would listen outside of the anime. I didn't hear any tracks that were, oh, this is easily rememberable. I felt like the OST probably was very subtle, very generic, because it didn't really, I don't remember any tracks anymore, any from the anime, I have to say. I can't remember anything, so it didn't really leave an impact on me. But overall, my verdict is it was an enjoyable anime. I wouldn't go far as to claim that this was the best anime of the decade. This got unnecessarily large amounts of hype, and I understand that because it has gore, it has fan service, and it has good comedy actually for an anime, and it's very different from what has come before, as we already talked about those character archetypes, like really pushing the envelope in style here. But I wouldn't go far as to say that this was better than like Vinland Saga, but it's definitely one of the better ones of the season, for sure. Maybe the best of the season, but not the best of the decade, at least not for me. People can have differing opinions about that, and that's fine. But and it probably would have gotten a lot more higher rating if it was done purely on 2D. But as I just said, that's never gonna fucking happen. So stop whining about it. But I'm gonna wrap it up here. I definitely recommend Chainsaw Man for a lot of people. I think it could resonate with a lot of like non-anime viewers as well. I think there's a lot of appeal in that sense, but who knows when is the next season going to be coming out? Hopefully soon. But some people were disappointed there was only 12 episodes, but then again, the quality of the animation was pretty high end, so this type of shit, you know, takes quite a lot of time to produce. But I enjoyed it, I liked it, and it was definitely an experience. I think I wasn't fully hooked in the very beginning of this anime, but as like we got around on that 8th episode, I think the stakes got a bit higher, and I was more invested in the story, because as I said in the beginning, is a lot of build up, and there's not a lot of hooks there and there to make you like fully interested and invested in the story. But I think around on the 8th episode, I think things kind of blow up, and it gets really more serious, and you get to learn a bit more about what's going on in the grand scheme of things and the grand scheme of the plot. But thanks for watching. As always, subscribe, like, yada yada yada, and I will be seeing you next time. Cheers.